Hello, and welcome back to another jam-packed episode of the Hammercast. And I do mean jam-packed because I'm having back on for the first time in, I believe, 7 years. I'm having my friend Pavel Macek all the way from Prague, Czechia. I have to say Czechia rather than Czech Republic. My
Most
my
is good.
yeah. Most of my tendency is to say Czech Republic, but we are going to have a great conversation today. We were having a conversation just before we got started here about old time strongman training and its connection with the current approaches that StrongFirst uses, as well as the addition of some modern cutting edge strength science, as well as a couple of other cool projects that Pavel has got working on. And he is, of course, coming to us from his bat cave. As you can see, he's got his library, the Fortress of Swolitude, we might call it. And and this is only half of it, by the way. He showed me the rest of it earlier. It was like, I felt like I should get a library card and, get a punch every time I go in there. Well, we are going to have a lot of fun. Before we get started, I want to encourage everybody who is listening. If this is your first time listening, welcome. I want to give you a gift. I have a very fun challenge that I think you'll like, and it can be done in addition to your regular training. It's my 9-minute kettlebell and bodyweight challenge. It is based around gait pattern movements such as crawling, loaded carries, stuff that's super simple to learn and implement, and even more importantly, very, very simple to recover from. This is not the sort of a thing that's going to keep you laid up for days, but you very well might find that you are unlocking all sorts of strength you didn't even realize you had while building strength that you didn't realize you could build. So if you go to 9minutechallenge.com, I'm going to give you a free copy, digital copy. The only caveat is that you have to type in the number 9-minute challenge. So number 9minutechallenge.com. Periodically, I've seen in show notes when I've been interviewed on other podcasts, they write NINE minute challenge. So I feel the need to just underline the fact. 9minutechallenge.com. You get your own complimentary copy. All right. So, Pavel, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you on.
Great to see you, Alex. A long time no see. Always great to talk to you. Of course, I'm following your work online, and you are putting some great information out there, training tips. And as for the 9 minute challenge, 9 minute challenge, I got it years ago. So, guys, go to the website right now. Download the awesome material. It's very simple but very refined, and start doing it right now. And then let us know your results. You will be amazed what you can do with such a simple protocol.
Yeah, thank you very much. And, this is heady praise coming from one of the few men in history who's ever been crowned master instructor by none other than our mentor himself, Pavel Tsatsouline, the founder, creator of StrongFirst. And, I'm curious, we may have talked about this in the previous episode we did together. How did you discover StrongFirst and Pavel, or was it still in his previous organization when you started discovering his material?
Mhm. I'm a long time martial artist. I started to train martial arts in 1991. And later on, I went to study Chinese martial arts in San Francisco, later in Hong Kong and China. And I was always looking for the best strength and conditioning methods for martial arts. Later, I got involved in reality-based self-defense, MMA. I'm also MMA coach. By the way, yesterday I had a training session with Jiří Procházka, our current UFC top fighter. So
Oh,
we
the
had a fun. He is a fan of traditional martial arts as well. So we did some swings and get-ups with Jiří. And I tried everything like machine training, dumbbell training. We may come back to that because
yeah.
it made a nice circle. And then I discovered this bodyweight, of course, stuff. And then I discovered this book called The Naked Warrior, which was quite different from anything else. Just two exercises, not commonly see. And the rest is the history. So I got through StrongFirst through the bodyweight strength training, which is something that's I would say your specialty, Alex. And I just saw the cool picture you posted the other day of you doing the hanging leg race, one hand hanging leg race.
Yeah,
It's
thank
awesome
you.
feat of strength. So body weight strength training. Then I heard about these kettlebells, right?
Yeah.
And bought the full set. Learned from various online resources, DVDs, trial and error, and then me and my wife got certified in 2012. And I would love to give credit to Pavel Pavel Tsatsouline, who always pushed us up, helped us to grow. So we got promoted. My wife just got promoted to StrongFirst senior certified instructor, and I have the honor to teach certifications, bodyweight, kettlebells for StrongFirst in the world. And I'm grateful every day I practice. I'm grateful every day I teach. We have great community, great friends such as you. So I'm very grateful.
Yeah, well, we're all very grateful, and I think in particular because you do such a good job embodying the strong first principles in ways that even the every I think every master instructor brings his or her own like unique approach and unique perspective to the role, and I think that your connection with all things old school, from traditional martial arts to traditional lifting to the modern approach embodied by Strong First is especially cool. And when we talk about the old school stuff, I think one of the things I look back at my own introduction into the world, and for me, it actually did come through the martial arts as well. Although I wasn't as serious a student, it was more just kind of like a hobby. But I originally started with Muay Thai and then moved on to Krav Maga. But I was always Bruce Lee was always my hero, and I
Mhm.
had this great book by John Little called Bruce Lee: The Art of Expressing the Human Body,
I
which
got the same book. Yeah.
yeah, it contains the first reference to a kettlebell that I'd ever heard of. It was like on the back train. It's like not swings, oddly enough, but like rows. It was like a kettlebell is a unique, addition you can add on to your dumbbell that can give you a different, sensation with your rows. This was written in the book, and I remember thinking, wow, kettlebell, that sounds pretty cool. Like I don't even know where I would find such a thing. And then a year later, my friend Drew Christensen, shout out to Drew, gave me the introduction by introducing me to Pavel. He was always talking about Pavel and how he was this badass and all this other stuff. And he brought in, this is back when
Yes.
people had printers in their homes. He brought out like printouts of like what Pavel looked like and stuff like this so that I could see. And then he loaned me Enter the Kettlebell and Naked Warrior. Like
Mhm.
that's like a friend jumping in front of a bullet, and the bullet is weakness, and his shield against it is like these books, and he's like, "You take these, you need them,"
Mhm.
and that changed everything.
Yeah.
And eventually, I got into the old school stuff, and you've really done a very good job, I think, in particular of highlighting the old time strongman training. And a lot of people forget that they weren't just performers, but a lot of them were actually educators, and they had
Mhm.
books, they had courses, back when correspondence courses were a thing. And tell us a little bit about how you got into the old school iron training, which spans basically what we do at Strong First now as well, which is barbell, kettlebell, but then also you've been adding in the dumbbell component as well. Was that something that just felt like a natural transition given your approach to the old school martial arts and this old new approach to strength training?
Mhm. Before I start, I would like to congratulate you to passing the Strong First Elite.
Ah, thank you.
It made me very happy to see that. So congratulations, brother.
Many thanks.
Okay, how I got involved into the old-time strongman training and approach. Of course, again through Pavel, his first kettlebell book. He has multiple references to many of the legends of the Iron game. I flipped through the book. Of course, you want to see the most advanced exercise, right? So right at the end of the book is kettlebell bench press and two hands anyhow. And I saw the picture of Arthur Saxon, and I thought, hey, I want to learn this. This is so awesome. And bench press happens to be my favorite kettlebell lift. I'm working on a specific bench press and snatch project. reviving the old program minimum, and this is a program that I'm doing right now, testing myself with many students, taught a couple of workshops, so let's see how it goes. If you want to learn something new, read an old book. I'm a nerd who lifts weights, right? So as you could see from my library, I read a lot, many hours, and truly many hours a day. Of course, I read all Pavel's books, and he's a fan of the old-time strongman as well. I just met him about 2 weeks ago in San Francisco, and Pavel brought me as a gift a couple of issues of the old magazine Strength and Health. Years ago, when I was teaching in Los Angeles, Pavel gave me his copy of his favorite strength book, Secrets of Strength by Earl Liederman, with a
Wow.
nice StrongFirst shield. So again, I'm just going in the footsteps of my teacher. So the names and books that he has referenced, I have found them online, bought them on eBay. I have a very, very extensive collection of old-time strongman manuals and booklets and training courses, lots of magazines, and what I really like about StrongFirst, we are truly standing on the shoulders of the giants. We are a school of strength with a lineage that goes right back to the origins of the iron game. Let's say Eugene Sandow, then the English school like Thomas Inch, guys like Edward Eston. In United States, Sigmund Klein, and then of course we have the Eastern heritage of Dr. Krajewski and his circle, George Hackenschmidt, the Russian Lion, Ivan Lebedev, and so on. So this is, I think, truly genius of Pavel, that he is researching the old stuff, the old material, and then modern science as well, because we are not retro just to be a retro type of lifting, but we are looking in the past what worked for hundreds of years, and we are thinking, okay, how can we make it better based on the modern knowledge and modern science. So if you look at our core curriculum that we teach at SFG1, SFG2, as well as our bodyweight or barbell program, and now also a dumbbell program, these are some of the lifts that stood the test of the time. So people were doing them for more than 100 years. They reaped the benefits, and what Pavel did, he developed a system how anybody can learn it, step by step procedure, which is first of all safe, second, a very short learning curve, third, power to the people, so anybody can benefit from the lifts, and it might be kids, it might be junior athletes, it might be your regular desk job worker, it might be senior population, it might be high level professional athletes, and he developed a step-by-step system. Of course, that's only one part of the thing, selecting of the right tools, right exercises, but also the programming. I'm a huge fan of our strong endurance protocol, of course, our strength training protocols, simple programs, and excellent results. So in short, I'm just following the example set up by our teacher, and yeah.
I think I especially like what you're talking about with the lineage because I think that fits perfectly here. I also think that will, in some sense, it will never be like the number one thing in the fitness world. It'll never be like the major trend because it really requires people to dig deep and devote themselves to something as opposed to, whatever the latest fly by night craze may be. But it will always have a place, and I think in particular Pavel, just from what I know, you know him better than I do, but I've always known him to have very old world sensibilities. Like he's a true like old school gentleman,
Hmm.
and his I think his attachment to old time training, as well as his own appreciation for the old school martial arts, that has something in common that you mentioned, which is that lineage.
Hmm.
And similarly, our friend Dave Whitley, as he's got a lineage of old time strongmen that he runs through. For him, it's Dennis Rogers, and then
Hmm.
Dennis to Slam the
Mike
Hammerman, Slam
Atom,
the
yeah.
Hammerman to Mighty Adam to, Champion Volenko, and so on
Hmm.
down the line. And martial arts, it's the same way. It's like uh, a lot of these disciplines that turned regular mortals into seeming freaks of nature all had something in common, and it was this wisdom that was just handed
Hmm.
down from uh, from master to student, who then becomes the
Hmm.
master, who then takes on his own students. And
Yes.
there's a nice convergence between the martial arts approach, where they do the exact same thing, and you can see even now, these kung fu masters who can do just unbelievably incredible feats. Similar with people who practice old time strongman uh,
Hmm.
type of like grip feats and that sort of a thing, and identical with the iron training protocol. So what you said about we're not being retro for the sake of being retro, it's perfect. It's like, we're keeping what works and we're adding what else we're finding works. And I think that the I see this personally as a mistake that a lot of modern trainers make with like the science-based crowd, is
Hmm.
assuming that the stuff that was handed down isn't necessarily of any value, and that what's of value is a study that proves this, that, or the other thing works, which of
Hmm.
course presumes that you had to be willing to test it before you had the study to
Hmm.
determine whether or not it was actually of any value. So being able to balance those two things, like let's see what we can get from scientific research as well as from individual experience, and let's put this together into protocols that help people to actually get to where they want to go without all the confusion.
Hmm. I would say we are a school of physical culture, and the culture is important thing. What I really like about our school of strength, StrongFirst, it's we have a style, right? You mentioned Pavel being an old school gentleman. We with my friends we call it old soul, right?
Yeah.
So we are polite, we are honest, we are students, we are teachers. We have the community. So this is something that I truly appreciate about our school. Like you mentioned, we have various not only master, seniors instructors, team leaders, but other certified instructors and students who always bring something interesting to the table. Different protocols, different teaching progressions. So it's a group of high-level professional from various sports or physical activities, other sort of knowledge, and we are continuously developing the system to make it better, and I like it very much.
As do I. And I think too that the fact that it can reach back into history, this is something that we were talking about too before the call, is that anything modern that can reach back into history and connect us to our past and to what our essence is, whether it's literature
Mhm.
or historical knowledge, or whatever the case may be, in this case actual physical disciplines like martial arts and other things like that, I think also gives a certain deeper meaning to the practice that you're doing. You're not doing it for its own sake, you're doing
Mhm.
it for some sort of an outcome, but along the way you get more than what you'd expected. It's like,
Mhm.
I don't know, you go to buy something and you get a bonus, the store is giving you like a, I don't know, a free bonus or whatever, and you get the sense that that's what you get from the practice of these sorts of
Yeah.
disciplines. And in particular, since we're talking about the iron and the old school, some years back, you started developing some dumbbell protocols, which I
Mhm.
think to a lot of people initially probably sounded strange, because it's
Mhm.
like, oh, well, isn't the dumbbell just sort of like for curls and, bodybuilding vanity stuff? But a lot of the old time strongmen used dumbbells extensively for not just curls and, tricep work and whatever, but for major lifts, and they did them in a way that really suits what we do with the kettlebell and with the barbell. And so I'm curious to hear a little bit more about it because admittedly, I have not yet gone through the dumbbell course, but it is on my list of things to do. So I'd love if you could talk a little bit about what the inspiration was for the dumbbell course and what all it teaches and how it dovetails into everything else we do at Strong First.
Mhm. You asked before how I got involved with Pavel's hardstyle teaching, right? And I told you that I tried everything, including dumbbells, the usual stuff like biceps curls, of course, and triceps extensions and seated presses, your usual 3 sets of 10. I had a friend, he was a bodybuilding champ, and I thought, why not give it a try, right? One of my friends, he gave me a full set of dumbbells from light to fairly heavy, like 50 kilos dumbbells, right?
Mhm.
And I even organized a workshop with my friend, and that was what we were doing, basically bodybuilding isolations protocols. And I thought maybe it's not the best option for athletic type of training for combat arts. When I started to learn to how to lift kettlebells, of course, from the floor, overhead, right, full body lifts, standing, very different from the bodybuilding type of isolation training. So I thought, hell, everything. I can do everything with a kettlebell, way better than with the dumbbells. So I gave my dumbbell set away. I said I don't need it. It's just gathering dust. I'm lifting just the kettlebells. But then I started traveling, teaching for StrongFirst, or traveling to teach other courses. And very often I was in a situation where, of course, I want to do my own training protocol when I'm on the road. But very often gyms, they didn't have kettlebells, or not heavy enough, or poor quality kettlebells, pink, plastic, and light, right? Or not even a pull-up bar, not even a barbell rack. Basically, every hotel gym had that bike that you ride and you don't go anywhere, right? Some pull-down machine
Yeah.
and rack of dumbbells. So I thought, okay, no kettlebells. How about I do our kettlebell lifts with the dumbbells? Some of them are pretty close on the surface. Let's say clean and press, right? You clean and press kettlebell, clean and press the dumbbell. uh, what I found out later, if you want to clean and press safe and heavy with the dumbbell, there are some very important details and very important differences, let's say, to the kettlebell clean and press. So, but that's pretty obvious. Get up, feels weird, but you can still do it. Some push presses, jerks, okay. How about snatches? How about swings, right? Uh, so I thought everything that's doing worth doing, it's worth doing, right? So I went to my huge collection of all-time strongman material and started to pull out the articles and tutorials that were about dumbbell lifting, and that's important. Dumbbell lifting. Uh, we went through a certain development in the iron game. So originally we're all-time performing strongmen in cabaret vaudeville, showing their feats of strength, right? Then they started to compete, to compare their skills. How much can you lift, right, off the floor or overhead? Then gradually powerlifting and weightlifting were two specific branches. When they narrowed down the number of lifts that they were doing, the British Amateur Weightlifting Association had almost 50 different lifts with barbells, with kettlebells, and with dumbbells, but they narrowed it to the three weightlifting disciplines. Later, they cut it to two, and of course, in the 1950s, 1960s, the advent of powerlifting. So that was still lifting heavy, and then we had bodybuilding, basically just look good, right? Have your guns, pump your biceps, and do lots of isolation lifts.
Yeah.
But before before the advent of bodybuilding, and Pavel Tsatsouline says that bodybuilding is the worst thing that happened to strength training. They were lifting barbells, kettlebells, and dumbbells, and exactly the same type of exercises, like I mentioned, off the floor and overhead in various manners. So I did my research, and I found out that there was first of all, dumbbells were super popular back in the old days, uh, especially with the invention of the loadable dumbbells. Same goes for barbells. That was a true revolution when they invented the loadable barbell and also dumbbell. In around, I believe, around 1910, 1911, Alan Calvert of the Milo Barbell Company, he wrote a booklet which was called The Royal Road to Strength. And on the cover was a gentleman doing a dumbbell lift, kettlebell lift, and a barbell lift. And the Milo Barbell Company developed a specific weight lifting tool called Milo Triplex, which consisted of two kettlebells, dumbbell, and a barbell, and you can assemble it. You know, you have a long bar for the barbell, short bar for dumbbell, and kettlebell handles for the kettlebells, and you could put it together. And his first progressive course, and then later second and third, covered all these three weapons against the weakness. So I I was basically reconstructed the all-time strongman dumbbell weightlifting type of training, and I was doing that when traveling, when kettlebells, barbells were not available. I showed a couple of friends what they think. They liked it, so I taught the first workshop actually 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I taught the very first workshop in my school in Prague, KB5, and people liked it. Many people had some experience with the dumbbells, doing the isolation stuff, some experience with the kettlebells, and they were, of course, curious how to do it. The cool thing with the dumbbell is that if you buy a loadable dumbbell, my dumbbells can be loaded up to almost 80 kilos. So you
Wow.
buy a couple of bars, some plates, and you are covered for life, right? Show me somebody who can do the dumbbell overhead swing with 80 kilos, and it may take some time to get there. Of course, I let Pavel know about my project, and he was interested in my research. Fabio, Brett, my other colleagues, they were supporting the project. So finally, we came up with not only with the live course, but also with the online course that's published at StrongFirst under the StrongFirst banner. And I just taught a dumbbell workshop in US, the very first StrongFirst dumbbell lifting course. And I was looking for the name, right? The core of the course is based around three lifts: clean, press, and overhead swing. Various different variations of the lifts. So I'm teaching muscle clean and power clean, split clean. Same goes for the overhead swing, which is different from the kettlebell swing. It's very different lift, and of course the press. And it's put together into a so-called chain when you do overhead swing, press, clean, press. So the main program is called linking the chain. And
Mhm.
I told Pavel that maybe that would be a good name for the course, and he said, you know what, only people who have some education in the iron game history, they of course know the mighty Gorner and his famous kettlebell chain
Die
and
Kette.
dumbbell chain, they would know, but not many other people would know. So I thought, okay, what would be a cool name? And bold enough to ask, I asked Pavel, how about Enter the Dumbbell, right? Tribute to his all-time classic that you mentioned in the beginning of our call, Enter the Kettlebell, and Pavel agreed, and we even developed a logo enter the dumbbell, which looks it's in the same font as enter the kettlebell. So it's a brother and sister course companion. Again, three lifts, low rep, heavy, and I'm very happy with the final result with the course with the training programs that can you can use them also with the kettlebells as well, not only with the dumbbells, and it will just help everybody to become what they called back in the old days all-round strong person. So
Yeah.
you may be very strong with your particular pet lift, but the question is how strong you are. Lift it's heavy. You lift it off the floor and overhead, barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells. It doesn't matter.
I
So
think
that's the original. That's the origin of the project.
I love it. You know, and I like the idea of becoming an all-around lifter. It reminds me actually of one of my favorite mixed martial artists of all time, Georges St. Pierre. When he would
Hmm.
walk out to the octagon, they always put up on the screen his stats. You know, he's like black belt in Kyokushin karate. I think he had a black belt in jujitsu as well. He could out wrestle like wrestlers. Like, you
Hmm.
know, when he fought Josh Koscheck, for instance, he
Hmm.
just and Koscheck is like a spectacular wrestler, and he out wrestled him. And so he got the moniker. I've never seen anybody else get it, but it said the complete fighter. And
Hmm.
that just tells you everything you need to know about him. He can strike,
Yes.
he can grapple, he can submit, and I think that it is very for anybody getting started. You don't have to worry about becoming complete anything. All you have to do is start with the path you're on, build some acumen, build some momentum, and then as time goes on, you add other things that are according to your interest and your needs. But as you get really serious about your training, I think that it does benefit everybody, not only you in your own development, but also your students if you teach, to have a deeper and a wider understanding at the same time of the discipline as a whole. And so I think that this idea of this is why I really like StrongFirst's approach for having the unified certification with StrongFirst
Hmm.
Elite, because it
Hmm.
it makes you demonstrate that you have the necessary levels of acumen and all these different disciplines at the same time, and it shows that you can prepare yourself for that sort of a thing using these multiple tools. And I think what better addition than the dumbbell, which had such a huge place in people's training up until, I mean, it still does, albeit typically for for different purposes now. But even the old timers were really big on dumbbell training, and I think the seeing it sidelined never always made a lot of sense to me. I always felt like there's got to be something you can do with these,
Yes.
and sure enough, there is. So enter the dumbbell.
Everybody who went through the course, they just love it. It puts together various pieces of what we do at StrongFirst already. So it has some parts of kettlebell lifting, some parts of let's say barbell lifting, and also weight lifting. So I can understand why people who learn how to properly do the weightlifting lifts, which takes time, right? But with a dumbbell, let's say dumbbell power clean or a dumbbell overhead swing, you are pulling heavy weight off the floor to the rack or overhead, and it's great. By the way, it's not only for the advanced athletes, but for the very beginners. Whenever I'm teach a dumbbell workshop for general population, people who have never lifted kettlebells before, never lifted dumbbells, most of them they have done some dumbbell training,
Yeah.
so I always ask them, okay, if you already did some dumbbell training, show me what you got. So most of them do the biceps curls and some triceps kickbacks and seated presses and whatnot. Some of them do CrossFit type of let's say high repetition snatches. I still think that kettlebell is by far better tool for this type of exercise. But
Right.
then I take a volunteer and I show him kettlebell clean and press, and then I show him or her dumbbell clean and press and ask them to try one or the other. So with the kettlebell, we know what happens. They pull it high, they get lands on their forearm, broken wrist, and then press it somehow. Dumbbell press, it's like 80 or 90% correct immediately
Yeah.
because there is no turning of the kettlebell, right? No banging of the forearm. It's not perfect, but it's way better. So if I need to teach somebody really fast and need to start to him or her to lift like now, right? The dumbbell clean and press is an excellent choice. Steve Bakari,
Sure.
Pavel is very often referencing his work in his books. And when I did my research for the dumbbell project, I emailed so many people to ask them about their opinion and experience. And Steve, he wrote me, you know what? I'm training fighters, and they are not the most patient people for all the details. If I want to start them to lift weights and get ready as fast as possible, this is what I do. I teach them dumbbell clean and press, and we might come back to the kettlebell clean and press later. Great lift, one of my favorites, of course, but we start with a dumbbell clean and press. One of my students and great friends is a founder, a godfather of Czech MMA and Thai boxing in Czech Republic. Great guy, Petr Macháček, and his school was called in the early 90s Universal Fighters, and we are universal lifters, right? So we the all round strength is something that I think it's a good thing to shoot for. I believe it's Brendan Hetzler. He calls it movement strategies. He
Mhm.
says if the only press that you can do is, let's say, a barbell press, you can do a press. So how about kettlebell? How about dumbbell? How about single, double? Some odd object, right? So he calls it movement strategies, and you should be proficient in way more lifts. Doesn't mean that you need to lift the heavy, right? I'm a huge fan of a minimalistic approach to the training. That's why Enter the Dumbbell covers just three lifts and variations of these lifts. Again, following the example of our teacher, Pavel Tsatsouline, but it's not that you are doing just two or three lifts for the rest of your life, or even throughout the week. So I usually lift fairly heavy 3 times a week, but twice a week I have variety days where I do all other different kinds of stuff.
Yeah. You know what? One of the things you mentioned here really got me thinking. A lot of people are, I think even now, people who are new to training are a little bit skittish about the kettlebell because they're like, ah, that looks like it could hurt my back. There's a lot of really fast movements,
Yep.
and no amount of explaining without their having any experience with it is likely to convince them that it will be okay because they don't see themselves as being able to do it safely. But people have just culturally have experience with dumbbells and they find them, I think, more approachable. Similarly, like, well, hey, I've got one dumbbell at my house. Let me see what I can do to, get strong with it. So I could see that even as being a great way to get people on board with the kettlebell because
Yes.
within a workshop itself, you can be like, hey, who's never touched a kettlebell before? Okay,
Mhm.
so we learned the dumbbell clean and press. Let me show you how we would do it with the kettlebell. You feel the differences. You see this. Well, here's what we can do with the kettlebell that we can't really easily do with the dumbbell, and here are the benefits and advantages to that. I think that's huge, and particularly because people are more. I was just doing some reading the other day about and that like basically Jack LaLanne was part of the reason he was such a pioneer was not just because he was on American TV sets, from east to west coast, but because he was getting people to exercise, and it was something that people didn't do unless they were going to be in the military or they were an athlete or they had some other reason to actually do physical exercise. It just wasn't a common thing among Americans, and then it started to become something that was very niche activity. And even now, we haven't really gotten out of the weeds entirely because most people don't exercise. I'm speaking from an American perspective here. Maybe in Europe, I would imagine in Europe, it's quite different. Having been to Europe, about 2 dozen times, it seems that it's a little bit different there. But nevertheless, I could see that as being a great way to get people on board with the kettlebell as well because they can learn things with the dumbbell they're gonna catch on to more quickly just due to their experience with it previously, whether personal experience or having seen it done, in magazines and advertisements and stuff like that. I really like that a lot. I think that's
I
potentially a
think
very powerful benefit to the course.
Yeah, I think it could be great bridge to everything that else that we did. Some people, for some reason, they don't like kettlebells, and shame on
Yeah,
you,
not yet. They
right?
don't.
You are missing so much. Kettlebell is, in my opinion, the true queen of the iron throne.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely awesome, right? But let's say we have many CrossFit friends doing already some dumbbell lifts, and I think that we can teach them how to lift safe, how to lift heavy, and how to lift using our programming principles. So, for
Yeah.
example, dumbbell is usually done for lower reps. Me personally, I love triples. I recover very well. I'm improving continuously. All right, so I'm not a fan of high repetition, let's say dumbbell snatches or dumbbell anything, right? So it might be a nice bridge to all other type of training that we are doing. One of our colleagues, Thomas from France, a StrongFirst senior certified instructor, he's a national coach for the wrestling team of France, and his first choice to teach his students is dumbbell split clean, right? And again, he says, I can teach them very, very fast. It has a great transfer to the wrestling, explosive power, great for takedowns, right? And this is something that he uses in his training. And then later they go to kettlebell and some barbell lifts. It is again not just a variety for the sake of variety. I'm a minimalist, so I'm just usually I'm always thinking what can I get rid of, not what I can add, right? But this is something so useful. I'm doing it most of the time when I'm traveling. Last year I taught a special workshop in Thailand, and Thai boxing gym. They had some kettlebells, but 24 kilo. I'm sinister. So 24 kilo, yes, I can come up with a training protocol that would I still would still reap benefits, but they had again rack of dumbbells, including to up like 50 kilo dumbbells. So I did the dumbbell chain and kept not only kept my strength, I got stronger before I came back. So for most of the students out there listening, in my opinion, it can be as simple as learning the dumbbell clean press and overhead swing, and learning the kettlebell clean press and snatch, and do the dumbbell or kettlebell chain, let's say 3 times a week, ABA, BAB, 30 minutes a day,
Hmm.
and you will be very, very strong, very strong. Also using some of our anti-glycolytic type of protocols. The original Gorner's chain is one of the original anti-glycolytic protocols, and you could get very, very strong just with one kettlebell, one dumbbell.
It's all it takes.
Add
I
some
think
crawling from your 9 minute challenge and some carries, right?
that wasn't even coordinated or planned, but that was a perfect, like middle of the show advertisement for it. So thank you very much. Check is in the mail, as we like to say
Yeah,
in
that's
English.
right.
And in
And
your case, it's even
as for the dumbbell project, you can type in enterthedumbbell.com, and you will get more information about the course, about the content. We have lots of videos, accompanying articles. So check it out and get strong, lift some dumbbells.
folks, I highly recommend it. And before we sign off too, you got another course coming out too, Kettlebell VIP, which
Yeah.
I am very intrigued by. Please tell us a
Mhm.
little bit more about this because we've kind of gone from the ancient days of, the origins of all of these things into the modern and into bringing it, the old into the new. And I really like the old school kettlebell lifts. I mean, I think this is one of the exciting things about the Turkish get up and the bent press coming back is that these were such staples to the old time strongman. And you'd see Sig Klein doing heavy get ups and, Arthur Saxon doing record breaking bent presses. And it's cool to see people doing them now, but those aren't the only lost lifts that
Mhm.
people should be doing. And you're diving in a bit on some other ones that are worthy of people's attention in Kettlebell
Mhm.
VIP. So give us a sneak peek on what the course is going to be all about.
Again, I have to give a credit to Pavel Tsatsouline, right? Because he brought my attention to all these lifts and names. If you open his first kettlebell book, the Russian Kettlebell Challenge, you have very wide variety of different exercises that you can do with the kettlebells. And kettlebell is, in my opinion, by far the best tool for very wide variety of exercises. You can do stuff with barbell, you can do stuff with dumbbell, but kettlebell is by far most versatile, right? We are fans of minimalistic training, so we have narrowed down the curriculum to the lifts. They have the best transfer. Uh, the investment that you put into the practice has the best transfer to anything else: health, strength, conditioning, good movement. But it doesn't mean that this will be the only thing that you will do with the kettlebells. Some people think that all we are doing are swings and get ups. Do your swings and get ups. Get on the simple and sinister program, meet the simple time challenge. I think that's mandatory for anybody who lifts a kettlebell, and then everything else, right? And you may continue with the kettlebells, you may jump on the dumbbell barbell protocol, focus on the body weight scales, but I think this is a great foundation. Of course, when I was reading all the old books and magazines that I got, I always took notes of the kettlebell stuff that they have done in the past. And you have like 1893, I believe, Eugene Sandow's book, and he teaches kettlebell split snatch or with a lunge, right? They called it swing, like overhead swing. Then you have Thomas Inch. Secrets of Strength book from or scientific weightlifting. I can't remember 1905. And again, kettlebell split snatch with a lunge. And then you have Klein teaching specific variation of the get up that the old time performing strongmen were fan of. You have awesome kettlebell book from 1928 by Ivan Lebedev, Uncle Vanya, training with heavy kettlebells with an excellent introductory program for beginners and quite very wide variety of various lifts with a single and double kettlebell and advice for the beginners, for the intermediate advanced athletes, great programming. Again, we said, we are school of strength with a lineage, and we are truly standing on the shoulders of these giants. So I have lots of notes, and I thought, this would be very beneficial, very useful for our kettlebell community. I became a friend with the Yazid Kadlchik. He won twice the world's strongest man category 105 kilos. We got in touch, and his approach to strength training is all-round weightlifting. So he has done mainly training with barbells and dumbbells, some kettlebells, but when we became friends, he started to learn the kettlebell lifts from me, and this is what he said. The kettlebell training allowed him to get rid of some nagging injuries, build some in-between strength, and it helped him to win the next title. So
Amazing.
kettlebell is really awesome. We just saw each other yesterday, trained together as well. He showed me some interesting variations that he came up with in his kettlebell training. So I thought, okay, we we have the core lifts that we teach at SFG level 1 and level 2, and how about variety days? How about specialized variety lifts? How about some lifts that they were forgotten or are not taught or practiced anymore? And many of them were presented by Pavel in his original book and in his DVDs. What I did, I took out all the articles and parts of the books describing various lifts and started to doing them and shoot a video course called Kettlebell VIP, VIP means vintage iron power.
I love
So
it.
you don't need to be you don't have to be a VIP to start to learn the lifts. And what the course is covering. mm, we mentioned already Hermann Gorner, Mighty Gorner.
Mhm.
He's one of the candidates for the strongest man in the world, right? Then we have Arthur Saxon, again, another candidate for world strongest man. These two gentlemen, their favorite tool by far was a kettlebell. If you think about it, Arthur Saxon was famous for his bench press, right? Like
Yeah.
170 kilos or something like this. But when he published his textbook of weightlifting, he has a kettlebell snatch on the cover of the
Yeah.
book. And he started to lift kettlebells. He was able to do kettlebell snatches with 48 kilo at age of 14 or something,
Yeah.
right? And it was major part of his kettlebell training. And he was a huge fan of all-round weightlifting. So he said, don't be a specialist. Don't focus just on, 3, 4 lifts, competition lifts at that time. But of course, his specialty was the bench press, but he was lifting everything. Dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, did a very wide variety of skills. Hermann Gerner, the same thing. He had about 400 records, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
So he was very, very creative. I'm not saying that all stuff that he has done is valuable, right? It's small feat of strength or challenge, not a regular lift that you want to do in your training. But still, he has done very wide variety of training. So when I developed the course, I thought, okay, foundation first. And I used the Ivan Lebedev's introductory protocol, which I think is very, very smart. And we are actually currently discussing something similar within StrongFirst as well, how to implement a similar type of procedure. What Lebedev is teaching is assisted swing. So you are grabbing the bell, not two-hand swing, but assisted. You are using just one hand assisted swing to assisted power clean to assisted press, right? And then you gradually are getting rid of the hand. Lebedev's logic is maybe you have a kettlebell which is fairly heavy for you right now. You are not confident to lift it with one hand, so use the assistance of the other hand. Assisted swing, keeping it on the center line, right? Assisted power clean with the dip, assisted not actually press but push press using the your leg strength to get a heavier kettlebell overhead and get used into the rack position to the overhead position. If you add some carries again from the 9 minute challenge, right, uh, in those positions, then it will it will it will build a great foundation for all other subsequent kettlebell lifting. Gray Cook, he has a great protocol. Then John, he calls it Cook drill, and it goes like this. You get the kettlebell overhead and you start walking overhead carries. Once you start to lose the integrity, you bring it to the rack and you keep walking. Then suitcase carry. Then you switch your hands. You do it for 10, 15 minutes. And Gray Cook says, before you start to lift kettlebells, you should be able to carry the kettlebells. Before you start to do pull-ups, you should be able to hang. Before you start to do squats, you should be able to sit down in the bottom position of the squat. And I think this is very, very smart. I use this introductory protocol with many of my students, and it works really good. For the listeners, the way that you should use for the carries is the way that you can bottom up press left and right, right? So it's fairly lightweight, but to do it for 10, 15 minutes, it's fairly challenging. You can go for 9 minutes, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Doesn't have to be 10. It could be 9. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. No, I
yeah.
like that too. And, one of the things that I think this is perfect, it goes perfectly with the theme we've talked about here about going into the taking the ancient and making it modern. And,
Mhm.
a lot of the movements that we do in the traditional strength training sphere, let's say, are things that not only have proven themselves to be very effective over time, but more particularly, they have some sort of a connection to a more primal need that our body was developed to do. So sitting in a deep squat, I mean, that's the essence of the squat exercise, being able to
Mhm.
sit in a resting squat. pull-ups, like our ability to brachiate or move
Recreation.
through trees,
Small kids on the playground, what they do, right?
exactly. It comes naturally to them. The first thing they don't think in particular, oh, I'm going to do a bunch of pull-ups. They think I'm going to go on the monkey bars and I'm
Yes,
going to hang. And so
exactly.
being able to do the things that your body was made to do is going to give you the capacity that you need to do the things that your body's able to do, and more importantly, that you want to do. You might want
Hmm.
to do a bunch of pull-ups, but if you can't hang, you're going to need to address
Yep.
that. You might want to press a heavy kettlebell, but if you can't do the cook drill for nine
If you
minutes,
don't own the overhead position, if you don't own the rack position, right?
exactly. And similarly, if you can't if you can't recruit your entire body as one unit to accomplish a particular goal, such as making sure that you're stabilizing the bell as you walk with it, and you're not wobbling all over the place. It's a sign that taking care of those things first is what's going to provide the platform you need to be successful later on.
Hmm.
So the big takeaway that people should be getting from this episode is the combination of the ancient and the modern, both in terms of what our bodies are
Hmm.
naturally designed to be able to do, as well as the disciplines that have arisen from need, as well as from what was possible in much, much harsher times, such as even in the 1800s, lifting back then, life was hard. There was no such thing as food safety. You basically had to just hope that whatever you bought from the market was not going to kill you. Injuries with the iron were the sort of thing that could put an end to your career. So the training protocols that arose around them had to do with being very sensible with your training and very focused on proper technique so that you could do things safely and effectively. And all of the benefits that we now have in terms of knowledge from modern science, as well as modern training protocols, all owe pretty much everything to what the old schoolers did, either consciously or really old schoolers did unconsciously, talking about stuff like the hanging and the deep squats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you owe it to yourself to pay homage to the old school, to the vintage, and in particular, this vintage iron protocol, I think, is going to be a really nice addition to anybody's training. And so,
Mhm.
when is it being released? Do you have a release date yet?
Oh, let me just finish
Sure.
the
Yes,
content.
please.
So this is the foundation. I call it Lebedev 1928, right? So
Mm.
assisted clean, assisted swing, assisted power clean, assisted push press. Then type of what we may call vintage, simple, and sinister. So swing, then get up, and the squat. But again, specialized variety, done a bit different. So I'm teaching Calvert's hand-to-hand swing. He published a book in 1924 called The Super Strength. And this is one of the very first exercises that he presents. And he says, this is the key to your super strength. Kettlebell hand-to-hand swing. Pavel's new book, Kettlebell X, featuring hand-to-hand swing as the probably best choice for the protocol, and he has very good scientific reasons why hand-to-hand swing is great. Calvert is teaching it as a stepping stone for other exercises, low rep heavy kettlebell or dumbbell exercises that the strongman used to train. So he's using also assistance of the other hand, putting it on the thigh, something that we don't do regularly at StrongFirst, but it has its reasons. Get up, I call it Klein's get up or strongman get up. By far the favorite variation of the all-time strongman because they wanted to show complete control of the get up. So they added a side plank and specific transition how to get to the side plank. Again, we can refer to the modern research, Professor Stuart McGill and so-called McGill Big Three, featuring the side planks, right? So again, very beneficial exercise. And as for the squat, hex squat, people usually say, "Oh, I can't train my legs heavy enough with the kettlebells; they are too light." Man, if you do a strict kettlebell hex squat facing the wall with 32 kilo sets of five, shoot a video and send me the link, and I'll send you 100 swings as a reward for this great feat. So this is the foundation, and then we have pulls and presses. Our usual drills, but again, variety. Some of the drills that were very, very popular. I'm a huge fan of kettlebell lunge swing to snatch, basically. So you pre-swing the kettlebell, then you snatch it overhead, you step forward, and I'm doing it as a half snatch. So bringing it to the rack, set it through the floor, kind of weightlifting, low rep, heavy protocol. Various types of cleans, split cleans, not only muscle cleans, but also power cleans. Cleans where you flip the kettlebell and catch the kettlebell, then you can press it with the kettlebell, with the body of the kettlebell overhead. Kettlebell curls. Curls are not evil, and you actually wrote a great article for StrongFirst about curls. Strict curl with fairly light kettlebell is challenging, and I'm teaching some of the variations that people probably never seen before. Let's say squat curl. So you get into the squat and then you curl the bell, raise up, then you can press the kettlebell. Not only the regular curl, but also holding the kettlebell like a beer mug, or beer cup with a light kettlebell. It's a very, very challenging. And a couple of other types of pulls. As for the presses, I think one of the missing links today between the strict press and the bent press is a side press, and I'm a huge fan of the side press. Again, building on Pavel's teaching. He teaches side press in power to the people with the barbell, in a Russian kettlebell challenge with a kettlebell. I'm teaching two or three variations of the side press. In my opinion, very underrated drill. Some of the variations are also great for people who can't press overhead, do the military press due to some mobility limitations, maybe previous injury, car accident. So you can still press heavy using one specific variation of the side press. And then a couple of additional lifts, such as foundation of kettlebell juggling, uh, just simple flip, one or two arms, one arm flipping the bell, flipping the bell on your palm, and great drill. It's, we may call it circular swing. I think very beneficial for any type of athletes who need rotational power.
Mm-hmm.
So that's this is the library, right? It's I believe maybe 40 different variations and lifts with kettlebells. And then comes the manual. I have done lots, I put lots of work into that, and I think this is the most comprehensive manual on the freestyle lifting with parameters. And interestingly, it's very, very not similar, but almost identical, I would say, to what we do at StrongFirst, our anti-glycolytic protocols, not training to the failure, building the strength and mobility over time. In the manual, I wrote down all the training parameters using the quotes from the old manuals, such as Lebedev or Hackenschmidt or Hermann Gorner. There is an intro part for the beginners if they are just starting with the kettlebell, so introductory program. Then for the intermediate advanced students, if they want to use it, let's say on their variety days, so you are doing your rite of passage or simple and sinister or any type of strong first program that we are offering, and that you have variety days, and that's where kettlebell VIP fits really, really nice. And for the fans of the all-round strength training, there is also protocol where you can use the material from the course kettlebell VIP plus any other type of lifts that you are doing, SFG, SFB, SFL, from the enter the dumbbell course, the dumbbell lifts, how you can put it together. It's freestyle, but it has still specific parameters. So some of the people they like this type of training very much. I mentioned Jiří Kadlčík, the world's strongest man, my good friend. This is the way that he trains. It's very intuitive, but very freestyle. It's a freestyle, but there are certain key principles that you need to observe. And I basically reconstructed the full system, and I would say this is it complements really nice the parameters that Pavel presented in the original Russian Kettlebell Challenge. You have 10 rules for freestyle kettlebell training. We have in our level 2 SFG manual, we have two vintage templates from the Tsarist Russia, which are great, and I have added another details from other sources. So I'm very excited about it. It actually I don't know when the podcast will be published, but it will be released today with a special discount. And for the listeners of your podcast, if you miss it for some reason, if you miss it, you send me an email and I'll send you a discount code so you are not missing on becoming the all-round strong person. And you can find it at my website, simplexstrong.com, or just Google Kettlebell VIP.
It's fantastic. Yeah, this will be going up relatively shortly, and I encourage my listeners to check it out because I really like the freestyle of kettlebell training where there's, you need guardrails, you need some stuff that is going to keep you in a very specific direction, but there's no reason that along the way you can't also periodically take a little bit of a side road or a scenic route and really enjoy the journey because that's what we're doing. It's a series of journeys that we go toward our greater selves in our strength training and in our physical culture, and adding in some stuff along the way that helps to make the whole experience even better and stronger is a must. And so I highly encourage people to check this course out. I'm going to include a link in the show notes as well as any other relevant information so that people can check it out and get swole, get jacked, old school style. And you mentioned that's right, baby. You got to get the gun show going. And of course, and that guns in part built by the squat curls and the strict curls and the stuff like that. Yeah. Now, in addition to simplexstrong.com, where else can people find you either on the World Wide Web, as it was once known, as well as social media and all these other places?
I have a English Facebook page. I have an X account and Instagram account, so you can just type my name, Pavel Macek. By the way, I'm very happy that you pronounced my name correctly in the beginning of the podcast. People usually say Macek, right?
I
No,
know.
I'm Macek, like pizza, like
Yeah.
pizza. Pavel Macek. So if you type my name in the social media, uh, I treat my social media. We discussed before we start to rolling the ancient literature, right? One of the famous Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, he wrote. It was not a diary. It was a exercise. It was a spiritual exercise. So he took daily notes as originally the book was called Notes to Myself, right? So my social media is most of the time notes to myself. So stuff that I'm researching, doing, I'm putting it online, basically for myself. And for some reason, people like it. My Instagram page has over 100,000 fans for some reason. That's another story, funny one. And people enjoy it, which makes me happy that they find it useful. So if you like kettlebell lifting, barbell lifting, dumbbell lifting, cats, philosophy, psychology, general personal development, meditation, and Lost, the best TV show of all times, then you are please found any of the social media profile of mine that you like, subscribe and get in touch.
I encourage you to do that, folks, because Pavel is a wealth of knowledge as well as a gentleman and a scholar. It's always fun seeing his posts, and I know that you're going to enjoy them. I also know that you're going to enjoy this VIP course. He's got other courses as well that are really spectacular. So, Pavel, thank you very much for taking the time to come on the show today.
Great to see you, Alex. I hope that we will see each other live soon again. Soon again. It has been too long. Alex came to Prague some years ago. He taught an excellent workshop here, and I hope that we'll see each other way, way, way more often.
As they say in Hebrew, Bezrat Hashem, with God's help. I will certainly do that. Also, all possibly with the help of an airplane that can be made possible. So we'll chat about that at the end. This is where the people get to be jealous that they don't get to be the fly on the wall hearing all the rest of the stuff that we're going to talk about. But folks, thank you very much again for tuning in. It has been a pleasure. And as always, have fun and happy training.